With 6 words, Michelle Obama rewires America's conversation on race. I think she rewired my skull as well. I'm Scott Ott with Bill Whittle and Stephen Green. And gentlemen, this episode of Right Angle, as always, is brought to us by the members at BillWhittle.com. Here's the deal. This was actually a column written by Philip Bump in the Washington Post, I think. And in it, he quotes at length Michelle Obama's speech to the Democratic National Committee convention that they just had. And this is how she rewires America's conversation on race, according to Philip Bump. Obama said, Kamala Harris, quote, understands that most of us will never be afforded the grace of failing forward. We will never benefit from the affirmative action of generational wealth. If we bankrupt a business or choke in a crisis, we don't get a second, third, or fourth chance. If things don't go our way, we don't have the luxury of whining or cheating others to get further ahead. No. Steve, this, I dissent. When I read this,
you put that so gently, Scott. I love you, man.
First of all, Steve, this is Michelle Obama. You know, that poor inner city kid who's wondering where her next meal is coming from, who is saying these things. Steve, what do you make of this idea that most of us, and she's including herself in that, I suppose, will never be afforded the grace of failing forward? We will never benefit from the affirmative action of generational wealth. How is she resetting the conversation on race by saying this?
Well, she's resetting it to the pre-civil rights era is what she's doing, and that's the attention. You know, divide and conquer, then unite and rule. And the Obamas, both of them, have always been so good at this, and it's sowing racial division using the language of racial healing. And it is the most divisive, destructive thing I've witnessed in politics in my adult lifetime, and just damn them both for it. I'll come right out and say that. You said you dissent? No, I'm just going to damn them for that. It's absolutely sickening. And to hear it from Michelle Obama, who her brief foray into the private sector before entering the White House was basically a make-work position. Barack Obama was a no-show at a law firm. Instead of doing the work he was supposed to be doing, he wrote a couple of memoirs over a life he hadn't really lived yet. And now the two of them have Netflix money. You want to talk? This is one of the most openly corrupt acts in American political history. Barack Obama pushed for net neutrality in order to benefit Netflix, whose customers during prime time were using something like 40% of the nation's bandwidth and paying for less than 25% of it. Net neutrality was supposed to basically let them continue with this arrangement. Getting rid of net neutrality forced Netflix to negotiate with the ISPs so that they would pay extra, and so essentially your Netflix bill was paying for all that bandwidth you were using. That was fair. That's the way it should be. Obama pushed this net neutrality in order to benefit Netflix, who then gave him a $40 or a $60 million production deal after he left the White House. This was absolutely corrupt on the face of it. They made him a multi-millionaire. And everybody gathers around their TV every Tuesday night to watch the Obama show on Netflix, don't they? No? No, they paid him tens of millions of dollars for stuff that not only does nobody watch, nobody can remember what the hell it is. I have Netflix. I have no idea what the Obama show is. Anyway, these two are corrupt. They are destructive. And what really gets me is how bitter the two of them are about all of their unearned success that they've taken from a country that would have given them so much had they just done the damn work.
Bill Whittle, what concerns me about this is not so much the Obamas as the fact that this was immediately received and applauded by not only people in the media, but people in the hall who heard it. They rejoiced to hear somebody talking in this way. And I don't think I don't think it's primarily about race. I think it's more about economics, although she was clearly trying to throw barbs at President Trump in kind of a mildly cloaked way when she suggested multiple bankruptcies and people don't get a chance to do that. Bill, this idea that in this country, if you're wealthy, it was handed to you. If you only get one chance. If you fail, it's too bad. But the upper crust will get unlimited chances. Is this the United States of America that you see?
Well, all I have to say is when you get Michelle Obama making a speech like that and Kamala Harris saying she would just love to be inside the government so she can secure the border, just the amount of sheer raw nerve it takes, you basically power the country for the rest of the century. You know, just on the sheer amount of gall and the number of patriots that are spitting in their graves. You need to just harness this for all of our energy needs for the future. I wonder what effect institutionalized wealth will have on, what is it, Sasha and Malika, her two daughters?
Yeah, they're worth about $8 to $10 million apiece with their trust funds.
I wonder if they're going to have a chance to fail a second time, or any of the other things. You know, that this, as Steve pointed out, the Obamas didn't work for their money; they became politicians and were paid for favors. But it seems to me that this is sort of targeted at Kamala Harris, whose hard scrapple rise to the top, you know, without a safety net of any kind, entirely on her own, without the benefit of patronizing strong men to help them, you know, that people like Michelle Obama and Kamala Harris aren't allowed to make mistakes or fail in the same way that white guys are. This rhetoric is maybe appropriate for 1966. But is absolutely an inversion of the situation on the ground today. All of the hiring is minority preference today. All of the admissions into colleges is minority preference today. All of it. All of the advantages that she talks about other people having are actually the privilege. It's a speech about privilege, Scott, and her entire life and the life of her husband, who also came up through the hard scrapple ranks, you know, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go surfing and smoke doobies on the beach and all the rest of the horrible chores that he had to endure as a young black man growing up on the beaches of Hawaii. You just can't make this stuff up. This is the cognitive dissonance, and I think this is probably why the thing got the reaction that it got. That you've got basically a multi-millionaire speaking to other multi-millionaires about how bad capitalism is so they can feel like they're down with the movement. You know, this kind of cognitive dissonance among the left, who preaches egalitarianism and socialism and equal outcomes, and who fly to 5-star hotels in private jets in order to attend conferences on egalitarianism and equal outcome. These people are in a perpetual state of near insanity from the anxiety that their conflicting words and behaviors produce in them. For Michelle Obama to say that the people like her or Kamala Harris are never given a second chance and not allowed to fail upwards, I mean, what do you say to this? It just leaves me speechless. But the reaction among the other people in there is an indication that they buy this lie too, because it makes them feel good about themselves. This is the philosophy of people who don't think but feel. They feel like we should be absolutely egalitarian with the poor, that rich people should give all their money to the poor. That's what they feel like. But they also feel like they don't want to give up their house or anything else. And so they don't have a consistent moral code other than the desire to feel good about themselves. And that's how you get speeches like this. And that's how you get Kamala Harris talking about securing the border if she'll only be elected. There's no character, there's no integrity, there's no willingness to pick a side and stick to it. It's all just situational ethics and situational rapaciousness.
You know, Michelle Obama became mildly famous at one point for taking the high road in political rhetoric, saying when they go low we go high, meaning that we will not stoop and wallow in the mud with those darned Republicans who are just, slinging it at us. We're going to maintain our integrity. We're going to have our values and morals. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore, if ever it was. What struck me really about this statement was, number one, how patently false it is. First of all, when it comes to bankruptcies, I'm not patting Donald Trump on the back for the number of times that his businesses have gone bankrupt, but in the United States of America, one of the things that made these United States the engine of progress that it became was our bankruptcy laws, was that it was possible to fail and not be ruined forever. And in fact, in some cases in the old world, for generations. But you could fail and you could get up and start again. And our bankruptcy laws, at least these days, have no racial bias. In fact, they're not even biased against poor people. They're bankruptcy laws. And they don't prevent you from starting over, as you can see in many, many cases. And you can go through the history of business in the United States and find that a lot of entrepreneurs and later successful business people actually had early bankruptcies on their record. And those weren't even then just race-based situations. So the fact that what bothers me about this is she's lying to people who need to hear the truth. You're not doomed if you fail. If you choke once in a business effort, that's not the end of the road for you. And for somebody who's a multimillionaire to stand up in front of people as if she was down with the struggle and tell them that you don't get the same chances in this country, so basically, don't even try. We're going to ride in on a white horse and rescue you. You just lay there and wait until your rescuer comes. It is a lie that I have criticized in the past. I thought the Obamas blew a tremendous opportunity to be able to tell the true story of how you get successful in this country. And yet instead, they tried to foster the dissatisfaction of people as if they had no chance. And then the other thing is this lie about generational wealth. In the most comprehensive study of millionaires I'm referring to here, I have next to me, it's called the National Study of Millionaires. They found that only 21% of millionaires received any inheritance at all. 21%. Just 16% inherited more than $100,000. Only 3% had an inheritance above $1 million. And so most millionaires in this country are not people who were just handed money, but they're people who tried and struggled and failed. And I'm not saying in all of this that there's some sort of virtue in being a millionaire. I'm just saying it's not easy. And the problem with wealth is not that there's a bunch of filthy rich people who want to keep you down. The problem with wealth is it's hard. It's difficult. Most people have to work for it. Unfortunately, the Obamas, in some ways, did some work early in their careers, but for the last number of years, they've been able to coast on what happened before and on the help of other people. And they are telling a lie to you now. And Kamala Harris is fostering this same kind of attitude that it's these wealthy grocery stores, for example, that are driving inflation rather than the true culprit, which is the government printing money, which drives inflation. Anyway, it makes me furious when people are taken advantage of. And that's what the Obamas and Kamala Harris are doing to their voters. Now, fortunately, only about half the country is with them, and maybe eventually the rest of the country will come around to understanding that this country still is a great nation of opportunity. You still have a chance, and when you fail, you still have another chance. And in fact, the real test and the real reward comes when you get up again and again and come up with new ideas, new experiments, new innovations, and you keep trying until you solve a problem for people that really matters, and they are more than happy to pay you for that. And you know who's happiest of all to pay you? is millionaires and billionaires. They are more than delighted to find somebody who's got a great idea that they can buy or fund or participate in some way. So if we stop tearing at each other, maybe we'll be able to work together and create another economic miracle like we've experienced in the past. And part of that means that you have to stop listening to people like Michelle Obama and Kamala Harris. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks to the members at BillWhittle.com for making Right Angle possible.